Hi everyone, for the Unit 2 Stretch and Explore, we're going to be looking at practice with grid drawing. So looking at the method of essentially overlaying a grid on top of a reference and then using that grid to help transpose that reference into a drawing. So with this sheet, you're going to pick one of the 5 references that are on here, and then essentially what you're going to do is you're going to divide that into those different squares, breaking down that reference into those different boxes to simplify the reference and make it easier to draw out. The nice thing with grid drawing is that it allows your brain to essentially break down a more complex image into smaller and more digestible pieces. So it's a good way when you're looking at a subject that is overwhelming to make it less so. And then with this, it can be a little bit more mathematical. So thinking on kind of where stuff intersects at that halfway point, that quarter-way point of those squares can be helpful. So as I usually get started, I'm going to be looking at where does my information intersect on those edges of my grid, thinking of kind of those as a place marker, so that as I go in and fill in that space in between, I kind of have almost like connect the dots, where I'm looking at more of angling, more of lining, and less of kind of cohesive everything all together. If you're somebody who is really struggling with grid method in the sense that you're really in the habit of looking at the whole image, something that can be helpful is to grab a piece of scrap paper to cut a little square into that scrap paper, and then to use that as almost like a viewfinder on your reference, so you're just looking at one square at a time. This can be helpful so you're not looking at everything all at once. So feel free to use this if you're really struggling with that simplification. Can make it a little bit easier, and then just kind of helps simplify, make things a lot easier. And then with that viewfinder, you can move it around as you need to. Otherwise, if you don't need that, you're welcome just to continue to go through, but it's a good tool if you're finding yourself kind of drawing the whole image and you're not drawing those individual squares. Otherwise, you're going to keep going on the sheet, kind of working square by square, dividing up that reference, looking at where things intersect. For the Stretch and Explore, the main thing I'm looking at is that you understand using grid drawing. You can use this to map out an image. You do not need to go in and shade these. The main thing I'm looking at is like key outline, key lines within your reference, and that you can mark those over with grid drawing. So I'll do a little bit of like that internal detail where I'm seeing some of those clear lines and shapes within the frog, but I'm not going to go in and shade the whole thing. So that'll be it for this one. It's pretty simple, but let me know if you have questions.